Good afternoon and welcome to Save Time, Save Money Chat. I am Michelle Stinson-Ross. Today I am joined by Michael McWhorter of Tizzy Entertainment. He is a filmmaker, a dad, a huge fan of Halloween, and we are going to be talking about thrifty choices, ways that you can get the biggest bang for your buck from your Halloween costume and makeup. Michael, you want to say hi for a moment?
Hey everybody, thank you for having me.
Our pleasure. Do you want to give some folks a little bit of background into your experience with costume and makeup and stuff for film?
Sure. As Michelle mentioned, I am a filmmaker, kind of working on what probably most people would refer to as the indie level. I get to call myself a filmmaker because that is what goes on my tax returns. I don't think you can call yourself a filmmaker until it's how you make your living. But I work primarily as an editor and director of commercials, music videos, feature films, and a lot of the stuff that I do is within certain genres, one of them being what most would classify as a horror or thriller film. And obviously, as people know, that deals with a lot of costuming and makeup, and more in this industry, those budgets are getting smaller and smaller, whether it be for an action movie or a horror film or whatever. So we as creative people, as artists, have to become thriftier, we'll say, with how we accomplish certain makeup effects, how we accomplish our costuming and our set design. And what I have personally found is that a lot of the resources that people at home who are trying to do something for, say, a haunted house, or to do costuming for their kids or their family for Halloween, a lot of those resources that they would use is the same stuff that we're using to accomplish those effects on screen.
Very cool. So you guys are going to get some of the insider tips from somebody in the film industry about how they do that. My first question for you is, if you have a really limited budget, I'm talking maybe nothing to about $5. I mean, you're just doing this on a shoestring. What are some of the ways you can repurpose things that you already have to make a fun Halloween costume? Obviously, when you don't have a lot of budget, it takes a lot more creativity and recycling, repurposing, that kind of stuff. So that was one of the first things I wanted to go into.
Sure. Actually, yeah, there is a lot of things you could do with stuff that you have around the house. One thing I've noticed when I became a dad, my son is about 5. Oh, he's going on 6 years old now. So I figured out, which I hadn't really processed before I had a child, in the younger years, the 1, 2, 3 years old, he is obviously oblivious to the holidays. Dressing the child up is much more for the parents' sake than it is for them. And something that I discovered very quickly, and is still something that he has an issue with, is he does not like to wear a mask. And I found that many kids don't. Any kind of thing you pull over their head that covers, even looking through eye holes, it's kind of a weird, be it claustrophobic, be it just unfamiliar to them. And one of the things that I found is a really easy resource for doing costumes, since you are really just doing it for your own sake, and something that pretty much everyone owns, is a hooded sweatshirt. Hooded sweatshirts, what's nice about them, especially for little kids, is it's just this thing coming up over top of their head. It can easily slide right back off. So, if you're out and about, if you're trick-or-treating or going to a party with the child, you can put it up to kind of sell whatever effect you're doing and pull it back down. And by effect, I mean you can really do a lot with a, silly as it sounds, a hooded sweatshirt. That hood can be a lot of things. It can be a mouth. Yeah, it can be kind of a helmet. It really depends on how you decorate it and what you turn it into. I think most people who do crafty things probably have the felt fabric. If you don't already have it around, it's something you can get your hands on relatively easily, pretty cheap at any kind of craft store. I've seen a lot of really cool examples. One would be to take a hooded sweatshirt, to cut out in, say, a white felt, a strip of little triangle shapes on top, and hot glue it on the inside of the hood, and then maybe stick a couple of white pieces and some other colored felt to make eyes on top, and your child is instantly a monster or a shark, And when you're dealing with a little kid, putting something like that that's got this little mouth with teeth and these little eyes on the front, very cute. Everyone's going to stop to say how cute the kid is. And it literally could cost you nothing but time, which obviously time is valuable, but when you're trying to create with things you have laying around, that's a very simple way of doing it. Obviously, if you didn't even have the felt, you could use old items around the house, old fabrics from an old shirt that you don't want anymore, or pants that you don't want anymore, and cut and repurpose that. Another one I saw that was very cute was to take just an oversized sweatshirt, put it on a small child, maybe stick a pair of really, I mean, you can find inexpensive fake glasses that are in like the kids section. You can find them at a dollar store that are just plastic frames. Putting that on the kid and maybe sticking a couple of pipe cleaners on the top of the hood, and then handing them a book, and they're a bookworm. Or you can add in maybe a clip-on bow tie if you have one of those laying around, maybe from a leftover outfit when they had the little school recital or from church or whatever. And it looks extremely cute, and again, it's really for your sake to dress up your child that way. On the adult side, there are some really simple, like dirt cheap things. Something I saw when I was doing a little research for this that I thought was extremely creative, and literally could cost you nothing but a trip to a store. If you went to a local houseware store, let's say, I don't want to necessarily give anybody a plug, but let's say a Home Depot or a Lowe's, go to their paint section, find their color palettes that they have for paints, and pick up every palette they have in the color gray from the spectrum. Then take maybe a little dress that you have laying around that you don't really wear anymore, or maybe a tank top and some shorts. You could glue those to the outfit. You could adhere them with bobby pins if you wanted to, or I should say with baby pins, and you are 50 Shades of Gray, which obviously is topical at this moment. And it's literally an outfit that, aside from taking the time to do that, costs nothing. Everyone will walk up to you and ask what you are, because you're just walking around with a bunch of cardboard colors hanging on you. And it gives you the opportunity to say 50 Shades of Gray. Everybody laughs. You're the highlight of the party, and all you did was make a trip to a houseware store and pick up something that they give away for free.
Right. What about something a little scarier? I mean, what comes to mind in this very limited budget range for me is it's really easy to go through your clothes that, it's all right if they get ripped up, torn up. This is the stuff that maybe I'd go paint a room or something in. How easy is it to rip up and tear up something and go as a zombie?
Exactly. I mean, zombies have never been a bigger part of pop culture than they are right now. The Walking Dead starts tomorrow night, and they're expecting record-breaking numbers, which it's funny because these things kind of go in ebbs and flows, and it's funny that zombies are continuing to kind of hold strong. And zombie is almost literally the easiest costume to make at home. Everything from taking old clothing and just ripping it up, making it look dirty. If you really want to go above and beyond, some of the stuff when I was younger and was doing films, and maybe I didn't even have an opportunity to go to, say, a makeup store and buy makeups. So my friends and I would often end up in someone's kitchen, and we would just start making things out of whatever we could find in the cupboard. Something we found that made a really interesting-looking zombie makeup that we did for a short when I was probably 12 or 13 was pancake batter. We took some pancake batter, minus the eggs, I will say, mixed it up and left it a little bit thicker than usual, and we ended up spreading it on someone and then allowing it to dry. When it dried, it tended to crackle and fall apart. And then, you can use makeup that you already have in your normal makeup kit. I mean, obviously, I think pretty much everyone knows about making fake blood out of corn syrup and food coloring. You could do that. You can also use Hershey syrup if you don't have corn syrup. A lot of effects people will use Hershey's with a little bit of red food coloring. I sometimes will use molasses. I've used before for that. And yeah, if you want to smear a little blood on it, and it, both from a distance and up close, it gives the appearance of really broken, damaged, decayed flesh, we'll call it. And you literally, aside from tearing up some old clothes you were going to throw out to Goodwill and maybe having to go buy some more pancake batter the next time you want pancakes for breakfast, you have a fairly convincing zombie costume. I will say the most important thing if you're going to be a zombie is acting like a zombie. That's what usually sells the zombie costume. So if you put it on and then you're constantly just walking around having a conversation, maybe find an old cowboy hat and a flannel shirt and go as a cowboy. Maybe that's a little bit easier if you just want to walk around and talk to people, or pull out an old T-shirt and write costume on it with a shirt. If you're just wearing something to get out of the house and get there, there's easy ways to do that. If you're gonna do zombie, or another thing you can do really easily is any kind of I would call it a witch or a hag costume. I mean, most women, if you bought eyeshadow, you have a ton of those strange palettes that you don't use. You're usually using one or two, and the rest are kind of for grabs. I know this because when I was a kid, I wasn't going to the store buying makeups to do that kind of stuff. I went to my mom and said, "What can I use?" And she's like, "I don't use that weird purple, and I don't use that green color." And I was like, "Good, because those are the colors that I need." And you put make your face a little bit pale with some makeup, and then darken the eyes, accent any of the the creases around your cheeks to make yourself look more gaunt. And then you throw on a black dress, and you can pretty easily be a fairly convincing or spooky looking witch, or some sort of a hag creature. I mean, one of the easiest things about that is you just don't do your hair. If you just kind of let it look terrible, it works for the costume. So the time you could have spent making your hair look really nice, you can spend on the makeup, and you're ready to go.
Very cool. All right, so let's up the budget just a little bit. Let's say we've got $15. What are some ways that we can turn either our kids or ourselves into a really great creature now that we're going to actually have a little bit of budget there?
Okay. I'll tell you a few things that are kind of cool that I found that would probably fall right into that range. Again, anytime you can do anything pop culture related, it tends to be a very popular costume. At least when you go out and people see that, creativity tends to win over, big crazy makeup effects or things. I mean, those are cool, but let's face it, to do those on a level that is really impressive can be hundreds and hundreds of dollars. So to do something really simple and maybe tap into things that are happening culturally, one thing that I stumbled upon on a music video actually that I was shooting recently, I needed a specific kind of, we'll call it costume, for some characters, and so I started researching what those actually looked like, and I found it was specifically a prison uniform. I found that a lot of prisons actually have started using just scrubs as their prison uniform. We kind of think of the old orange jumpsuit with the numbers on the front and on the back. Finding an orange jumpsuit, you're basically buying a prison costume, which will run you $35, $40, $50, $100 if you're buying a really nice one. Whereas if you just research, prison inmate, you will find that most prisons and jails are starting to use that. And a really good example of that is the show Orange is the New Black. Orange is the New Black, all of the characters on that show wear khaki-colored scrubs. That is their prison uniform. So if you are a cute blonde woman and you buy khaki-colored scrubs, you become Piper from Orange is the New Black simply by putting them on. You get some dark-rimmed glasses, and you can be another character. You buy one crazy-looking, teased-out wig, and you're that character. Like there's a lot of options with that, and obviously that's a show that's been very popular. So you walk into a party, and people are like, "What are you? You a nurse?" And you go, "No, I'm so-and-so from Orange is the New Black." Instantly now people are talking to you about how you have such a great costume, and really I found out those scrubs, I got mine from my shoot at a Walmart. They cost me, the shirts I want to say cost me $3, and the pants cost me about $5. In
nice,
fact,
and that was from new.
Those are brand new. Brand spanking new at a Walmart. I was getting them last minute, and I spent less than $10. In fact, I noticed afterward I could have bought sweatpants for even less than the scrub pants. And let's face it, who's really looking at the pants? If they're the same color, that's basically what makes it look like a uniform. If you wanted to go the extra mile, you grab some stenciled numbers and you do, you spray paint a number, or you write inmate with a fabric pen. There's a lot of things you could do to kind of accentuate that. But that's a outfit that cost you almost nothing. Another one I saw that was really, really creative for adults, for women specifically, was go to a fabric store and buy a good amount of tulle in whatever color you prefer, the pink, purple, green. Take a little, we'll say, strapless dress, or maybe a halter top and little shorts. Wrap the tulle around you. Again, affix it with, you could stitch it in places. You could use baby pins to do it if you really wanted that outfit back after the fact. Then take a piece of white string, about, quarter of an inch thick, and drape it in a loop, and you are a loofah. Like, wrapping tulle around yourself and that. You walk in and people go, "What are you?" You say, "I'm a loofah," and everybody laughs because instantly that white string and the tulle, that's exactly what you look like. For kids, something you could do really cheap, again, going to a craft store. The stuffing that is often used inside of pillows, that kind of fluffy, it's not really, I wouldn't call it cotton, it's kind of a
it's the fiber
some
fill.
sort of synthetic, that synthetic fiber fill. Getting that, taking your child and taking an old shirt of theirs and gluing that, stitching that in places to make them a thundercloud. Now, I had seen that where they then put a pair of old pants on and drew little lightning bolts, something I thought of and kind of tested when I was at a craft store, and it seemed to work great. And I think, especially if you're taking your child trick-or-treating, it would work really, really well. At pretty much any store, you can buy the little LED candle lights that they sell. They used to, they're just kind of, you press them and they turn on and they flicker like a candle. They have a little battery inside them. They cost a couple bucks each. Or sometimes you can find, especially this time of year around Halloween, you can find little LED lights that flash or flicker. Taking 3 or 4 of those and sticking those just underneath the folds of that fabric, your child literally looks like a little thundercloud with lightning flashing on them, which is a really cool look walking down a sidewalk or coming up to it.
Yeah, at night, absolutely.
Yeah, at night it looks amazing. I know you and I had spoke about the LED girl.
Right, the little
if anyone hasn't seen that, I'm sure Michelle can put up the video. A guy who he was trying to come up with something creative for his little girl for Halloween costume. I will point out that he used a hooded sweatshirt. He had a little sweatsuit outfit that he used for that, and he affixed some LED strips, which are getting cheaper and cheaper to buy. He basically came up with some sort of a battery system. Those things really don't use much power, so I'm assuming it was relatively easy. I'm sure it took him some soldering skills and a little bit of understanding of that. But he built and made her a glowing stick figure by running LED strips down the arms, one single strip down the chest, then one down each leg, and then he put one in a hoop around the opening of the hoodie. And then as she walks down the street at night, she literally looks like a little stick person toddling down the street, which is a really cool effect. Again, it was just some creativity over going and just buying the latest, Captain America costume or princess costume that they sell at Walmart or Kmart or wherever you may shop.
Right. I have to say, what I found as I was curating our Pinterest board and some other stuff, makeup is probably one of the most inexpensive, actually, things that you can get. I mean, especially this time of year when all of the party stores, the pop-up Spirit Halloween type places, they've all got a fairly decent selection of, inexpensive cream makeup.
Absolutely.
I have to say, man, the stuff that you could do with just a tube of black and just a tube of white are absolutely incredible. And I have to show this for just a moment.
Sure. Yeah.
This is some of the stuff that I found that I put on our Pinterest board. All of these are just black and white makeups. There's nothing to this other. I mean, okay, there's one that has some red lipstick, but who doesn't have red lipstick? Hello Panda, a mime, Betty Boop, Zebra, all kinds of. I mean, look, it doesn't even have to be very intense. I mean, she just used it very sparingly, and all of a sudden she's changed. Or you could do something very, very dramatic and be Jack Skellington. I mean, it's amazing what you can do with just black and white. Mix them together,
Absolutely.
and you can go grayscale.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'll give a little tip, as this is a little known fun fact about me. When I was in high school, I actually attended and graduated from clown school. So, which was taught by the Ronald McDonald who worked the entire Southeast. So I was trained in doing clown makeup, both in, say, mime and then more traditional clown makeups. Something that a lot of people don't realize when they buy these makeups at, say, a Party City or one of the party outlets, which, just for the record, as you said, all of those things are available and come, you know, especially closer to the holiday. They tend to do a lot of clearance stuff. I can tell you as a filmmaker, I restock this time of year.
Mm-hmm.
I go and buy those things, especially right after Halloween, and I wouldn't put that past people either. You know, a day or two after Halloween, if you know that you like to do things on a budget, feel free to run by one of those stores and snag that stuff on clearance, because they really don't want to store it and they don't want to ship it back. So they'll put that stuff 50, 75% off, and you can go ahead and just grab things that, while you don't necessarily have to have a specific idea, it's something that you know you could repurpose and use next year. But when you do put on those makeups, those grease paints, I mean, what a lot of people don't like about them is you put it on, it's very shiny, and then, you know, your child or so you bump into something, you go to scratch and itch, and now it's smeared everywhere. Simple, easy trick for taking care of that is to take some baby powder, find an old sock, ideally one that is maybe like a dress sock, I'll say a men's dress sock. They tend to be thinner than, say, a tube sock is. Pour some baby powder in it, tie it off, and then what you can do, and it's especially good with a white base paint, put on your white base paint, and then you simply take that and pad that around your face, and that powder will set the makeup. It'll make it not smear. You will have some excess powder on top. Grab one of your brushes you have laying around and just kind of dust off that additional baby powder, and then from there you can do your black highlights, you can do your shadowing. Again, if you use a black grease paint, you can use that powder to kind of set it in. That will hold, you can touch it, and it really won't come off. If you live in a particularly humid or hot, sticky place, eventually as you sweat, yes, that can affect it, but it will hold much better. Like if you are in a hot or humid place and you put just grease paint on, that stuff is literally going to melt and run down your face.
Which would make a great effect if that's what you're
and then
going
at the end of the
for.
night, when you're all done, baby oil.
Cool.
Well, I'm sorry, say that one more time?
I said, unless that's the effect you're going for with the melting face.
Oh, absolutely. That's true, yeah, go for melty Philly. But yeah, if you use some at the end of the night, just use some baby oil on some paper towel or on some tissue to get most of it off, and then some regular facial soap will finish off the job. So when you're buying that stuff, that's just a little tip to help you kind of extend the life of your makeup. Since, like I said, a lot of times you put that stuff on and then you go to put on the hat and you smeared half of what you just spent 45 minutes trying to apply.
Right on. Great tip. Thank you. All right. Yeah, we can do a lot with that lower end budget, but let's say, you know, we're getting into splurge territory and we have $30 to spend. What are the accessories, the extra special things that can really sell a costume and make you stand out from the crowd when you've got a budget of around $30?
Okay, when you're talking $30, I will say, because I kind of looked at it, this time of year, I mean, the Halloween costumes that are for sale, especially for children, I tend to feel, I mean, from even a few years ago, if you go to one of the Halloween pop-up stores, I can pretty much tell you you're going to spend $25 to $45 more for stuff that you will often find at a Target or Walmart or a Kmart for much, much less. So I would say always check those places first, because a lot of times they will have the costume that you were looking for, especially in children's costumes. And I feel like in general the children's costumes have come down a little bit. Something that I noticed this year that I think is really clever on the part of the manufacturers. I found several costumes. Obviously, the comic book movies are huge right now, whether it be Marvel or DC, and there are a ton of those characters. Kids, seen the movies, they love those characters, and they want to be them. You can find those costumes are generally they're running about $25, $30. And something that I saw that is really cool is several of them now are doing, I saw it both with a Spider-Man costume and with a Captain America, where they were reversible. So the Spider-Man costume, on the one side was Spider-Man. When you reversed it, it was a Green Goblin costume from the most recent film. Same thing with Captain America. The one side was Captain America. When you reversed it, it was the Winter Soldier, which was the film that just came out. And the cool thing about that is, I know with those couple costumes like that I bought my son, those became staples throughout the year that he wore while playing. So for $25, $30, it might be worth buying a costume like that simply for the entertainment that it'll give your child throughout the year. But let's say you don't want to do that. Let's say for whatever reason that's too generic, we'll say, and your kid still loves Superman. A costume that I saw that was super simple and really, really clever and cute. I don't think there's almost anywhere you could go right now and not find a Batman t-shirt, not find a Superman t-shirt that has just that Batman logo or that Superman logo. Buy a Superman t-shirt. Your child probably already has a dress shirt of some kind. Put the t-shirt on, put the dress shirt on, open up the dress shirt. You can take maybe baby pins again and pin it so it stays open. Slick back your kid's hair and throw a pair of fake glasses on them or not, and you have Clark Kent becoming Superman, which is really, really cute. You think about a small child wearing that. I think everybody gets it just because with the shirt open is pretty much a classic thing. You could do something very similar, and I mean, not that Batman, well, Spider-Man wears his outfit underneath of his clothes as well. You could do a Spider-Man one the same way very easily. Again, that's probably even going to run you less than $30, but it'd be a very cheap thing to do. On the adult side, some of the stuff that I saw that would probably be right in that price range and I thought was pretty clever. One thing was to buy a large, like a really oversized clear garbage bag, and then to buy several bags of the little colored balloons. Take the colored balloons, inflate them all. I'm talking about the ones that are about, picture that, about yay size. Cut holes in the bottom of the garbage bag to slide your legs through. Pull it up, same thing, holes for your arms. Tie it off with a little piece of string up top, but before you do that, fit in your bag of jelly beans, which visually was a really, really interesting thing to walk. Like, again, it's one of those things that when you take all the pieces separately, it doesn't translate to jelly beans. Putting it all like that, it's pretty much instantly you see jelly beans. Another thing I saw that was really cute was, especially if there's several women going to something together, maybe go and try and find the same dress in several different colors. We will say yellow, red, green, orange, something like that. And I saw some girls who went to a party and they dressed as Taco Bell sauces. So the one girl put a white strip that said hot sauce, another girl put mild, another girl put verde, and then they put the little slogan, I think everybody knows, the little quotes that are on the Taco Bell sauces. But 3, 4, 5 girls showing up to a party together in that is again, it's going to draw the attention of the party. Or going to a contest like that. You could compete as a group. A lot of times those costume contests are not just individual. They'll let groups come up that are all part of the same thing. And I could see someone showing up at something with a really expensive costume and then a couple of girls coming dressed like that, walking up and taking a contest.
Right. Variations on those ideas. I've seen several instances where the balloons became the top of a gumball machine. kind of the same
Oh,
idea.
yeah.
The dresses, I've seen Skittles, I've seen M&Ms, I've seen, you know, anything along that line that you could do multiples in different colors. That excellent idea for a group. One of the things I was thinking about for adults that are kind of into Halloween, they've been doing this for, maybe they have bits and pieces of, say, a pirate costume or a steampunk costume or whatever, and they want to step it up a little bit, add some more accessories to really put that costume over the top in that $30 range. Is there anything that you've kind of been seeing that would kind of take that to another level if they want to invest a little bit more money into the costume this year?
I mean, when you have something like that that you're building, you do have the advantage of every year you kind of add a little bit to it. We are constantly taking things that are not what they were meant to be and repurposing them. Certainly, finding steampunk is all about a lot of gears and piping and tubing and things that feel very classic antique pieces, but that have a sort of technological aspect to them. I mean, you could find old things laying around your house, an old clock that is broken, some old tubing. You can go again to a place like a Home Depot or a Lowe's and find rubber tubing and things that are very, very inexpensive. You can literally buy only a foot of it or only 2 feet of it, and then taking some gold or silver spray paint, spraying those items down. And then a trick that we have for making things look older and worn is to take some black paint and do a technique that we call dry brushing. You can look up online a lot of detailed tips and tricks on how to do dry brushing, but essentially you're taking a brush that is dry, you're dipping in a very, very small amount of the paint. You usually rub it on something like some cardboard or something so that there's barely any residue left, and then you're just kind of hard stroking over that gold or silver paint, and it gives it that aged, worn feel, especially getting a little bit darker in any kind of deeper grooves. That's usually when that patina, as they like to say on Antique Roadshow, that patina that those older items get, it tends to settle much thicker in deeper inset grooves. Just doing that, obviously, I think most people have thought of the idea of buying something like a squirt gun and painting it, or a Nerf gun. We've done that for sci-fi films, for steampunk things, all the time that happens. And again, pretty much the same technique, getting a couple of spray paints, which are relatively cheap, and just putting in the work, just being a little creative. Maybe you buy a squirt gun and you buy some tubing, or you buy some LED lights that you add to it to give it an even more techie feel. But something like that can really take a steampunk costume and take it a step above just wearing the average, oh, here I am in an old vintage jacket and this worn out hat that has a couple of sprockets on the side of it, those kind of things. Anything you can do to create a character as opposed to just putting on a few things. And again, this time of year, some things that maybe are a little bit harder for that to find, some sort of like a velveteen jacket that would really fit that, or one of those strange velveteen top hats. You can find cheap costume versions of that this time of year, and then just add accessories to it to kind of make it your own.
Mm-hmm. Excellent. All right, now we're going to get spendy. For those that just really, really love Halloween and they save up for it because they want to go over the top, they're into costume contests and all of that kind of stuff. If you got a $50 budget, how much do you devote to the accessories there? What do you look for to really make that $50 spend worth it?
Okay, I'd say the rules still apply, which are, what are you doing to be creative? In my industry, certainly, whenever we do anything, our budgets, it used to be that a budget of a movie dictated how a movie looked. That's not really the case anymore. It's how you spend that budget. The same thing is true, certainly, with costumes. What your idea is, your execution of that is going to be what makes it stand out or not. So, $50 could be spent on a specific dress or a specific jacket that really brings something out, and you had other elements around your house to add to it. Whereas for $50, again, some of the party stores and Halloween stores that sell stuff this time of year, something that's become popular only in recent years is latex appliances, which I think pretty much anybody who's really into it and watches, horror movies or things like that, or even science fiction, they have pretty much figured out that when you see that creature, is a latex makeup that is applied. Back, years ago, that was something that was not available to the general public. The best thing you could hope for is to go to a Halloween store, buy a big latex mask that you pull over your head, and basically you just have 2 eye holes, and it smells funny, and that is your costume. You're walking around as kind of this faceless thing. Now there's a lot of companies that are manufacturing movie-quality latex appliances that you can pick up. Everything from something small like a bite wound or a cut that maybe you're a zombie, so you want to do a bite on your throat. You're buying this latex appliance, you're applying that, and then you're using some of the other DIY tips and tricks to make it, to complete it, but you spent $10 on this bite wound. Or things like a full mask piece, a gargoyle or a witch mask that has a full chin prosthetic, that has a nose prosthetic, that has cheek prosthetics. I think most people are familiar with the vampire style from a show like Buffy the Vampire Slayer. Kind of started the vampires that have the really deep, rigid brows. Those appliances you can find, and this time of year you can pick them up for $10 or $12. Now you need to buy certain other items, things like spearmint gum and liquid latex to help with the blending of the edges. And again, you're going to spend time online on, say, YouTube or Pinterest looking at tutorials, and you can literally do makeup that is on par with stuff that you see in feature films. I'm talking photo real, where if you take a little time to study, do some tests on your own, you could pretty easily find ways to apply that and really make it blend in and look like it's part of your face, which obviously is the illusion that you're going for. So if you bought a facial latex pieces that you applied, and you have this big chin, you have this nose, and you have these cheeks, and you have things, and then maybe you buy some fake teeth, you can get some really high-end stuff for under $50 easily. That, again, just spending a little time at home, giving a little extra love and attention, spending some time online looking at those tutorials. I can tell you I still do it all the time. Sometimes I'm able to hire a makeup person for something. Sometimes we're doing something smaller where that's really not an option. And I'm someone who, anyway, I like to know how those things work, just for my own sake, just to kind of know how long it takes, about how it's executed. So I find myself a lot of times jumping in to help the makeup artist or to do things on my own shoots where I'm trying to direct, simply because I've gained that knowledge of something that I have an interest in. So real easily someone could find stuff online, those resources, and do it themselves at home. And for $50, I think you could actually come up with a really impressive, certainly with makeups, you can do some really impressive pieces. And let's face it, if you have a really cool latex appliance that you've done to your face with maybe some teeth. There's also a lot of the shops sell the contact lenses, the different colored contacts. You can get those relatively cheap. I will say, just as from my own research, I would be careful with those. If you're someone who wants to do that, I would really recommend, chances are if you're really going to do for the colored contacts thing, you're really into it. I would recommend going ahead and ordering that. Paying a little bit more money for those things, just because you see that thing at say a Spencer's Gifts, and it's relatively cheap, and you're like, oh look, werewolf contact lenses for $10. There have been people who've gotten cuts from putting those in their eyes, because a contact lens is not a one-size-fits-all thing. So I tend to shy away from buying the cheaper ones on that. But realistically, if you did a facial makeup and you did some teeth, the fact that your eyes are yellow or not, I think you're either going to be spending the money to do that on a bigger level, or your costume would still look really cool without those elements.
Gotcha. You know what? You brought up the makeup techniques and some of the definitely more intense and cool stuff, and I had to share this one because this particular makeup artist is just absolutely phenomenal. She has a huge YouTube following. and I have to show you some of the stuff that she's done. This lizard tutorial is just insane. But
Fantastic.
these makeups are just completely over the top. I mean, check out the scarecrow. And you mentioned the zombie bite marks. She has a whole tutorial on how to make absolutely incredible. And
Yeah,
then again, you
absolutely.
know, she does beauty stuff as well as, you know, there's some vein, there's some more bruising, scarring, all kind. I have to say, I have had more fun watching her tutorials and curating some of the really cool stuff for offers, and the resource that she provides online is just amazing. So if you're into makeup and you want to find a really, really good how-to, go find Made You Look. She is amazing.
Yeah, that's absolutely fantastic stuff. And I mean, honestly, when I first talked to you about doing this, I told you how recently I was needing something for a film that we were shooting, a horror film that I was directing, and I needed a specific item, and I found a company that manufactured it. And this item was not terribly expensive. It was, I mean, I think it was like $45, I'll say.
Hmm.
However, I was purchasing other things from them as well as part of this order that was going to equal, it was just about $700 in total. And when I told them, I had about 8 days before my shoot. So I said, I need this item. Would you be able to have it to me before then? Thinking, of course, this is just an item that they have on their shelf. They said, no, this will take a long time to make. This takes a full week, business days to make. So we're talking 5-6 business days. So you're going to have to pay to have it overnight shipped to you via FedEx. Now, I was looking at the item, and I told them on the phone, I said, there's no way this product takes a week to make. I know essentially how something like this is made, and I'll say for the sake of this, it was kind of a fake blood, but it was something different from just your normal corn syrup and food coloring. And they were pretty adamant about, no, this is only going, you know, we need a full week to do this, and they didn't seem really interested in making the sale, especially since I was also offering to buy these other items that was going to equal a lot of money. As a result, I will say that I did not purchase that item from them. I also did not purchase the other items from them. I found another retailer who actually I was happy that their stuff was a little bit better, but they didn't have that product. So I hung up the phone and was offended, I will say, that they felt you know, they didn't have any kind of concern about getting this item to me, and I thought, this can't be that hard to make. So I'm going to research it. I'm going to figure out how to make it myself. I did the Google searches. I did the Bing searches. I was coming up. I found a lot of things that were similar but weren't quite what I was looking for. And then out of the blue, someone said, have you tried Pinterest? And I think most women are really familiar with Pinterest. Guys kind of seem to have this belief that Pinterest is for girls, and it's not really. It's, you know, it's recipes and it's dresses and little art things and etc. I did one search on Pinterest and I found 50 recipes for exactly what I was looking for. I now can make it in about 5 different variations, including one that is edible, all on Pinterest. And since then, Pinterest has become absolutely invaluable. On top of, you know, your Googles and your YouTubes. So when you're searching for makeup tips, I mean, YouTube is a great place. Pinterest is a fantastic place because you'll find people who are really into that and have put a really nice collection of people like Made You Look, as well as others. Another thing that I found recently is also a really good resource. I had always gone there for art, deviantart.com. I'd always gone there for art stuff, and I found that a lot of people are putting really cool, in-depth makeup and costume tutorials on DeviantArt as well. So there's a lot of resources out there if you want to do stuff yourself. You know, obviously time is valuable, but if you're investing in doing this for yourself and you want to save that money, and more importantly, I find if you do it yourself, the quality is much, much better than anything that you're going to buy at a costume store anyway.
Right.
So taking that time, there are so many resources. Even a few years ago, were not available to do those makeup and those costuming effects. So I think we live in a really cool time that we can go and find. I mean, Made You Look stuff is to have someone, to hire someone to do what you're seeing those things there, because I know, because I've hired body paint artists and so forth. We're talking hundreds and hundreds of dollars to do that quality makeup, and frankly, a lot of times the people that you hire can't do it that well. So to have someone like that teaching you step by step, and I'll go ahead and spare everyone the mystery. The first time you do it, it's not going to look as good as the tutorial. Don't do it just on the night that you're going out. Start on it a week or two before. Start finding out what items you have work and maybe what you could get to make it a little bit better and a little bit easier. Mm-hmm. Experiment with it, and you'll be, I think, very, very happy with the results.
Right. Well, even the skills to do like contouring and shading. I mean, stuff that's really pretty basic for most makeup artists, getting that, like a grayscale makeup, getting that very straight gray like a face again, because face it, you put gray makeup on your face goes flat. You have to add back all the contours and the hollows of your cheek, at the side of your nose, at the temple, you know. That takes some skill and practice to do, and I will admit this is a makeup technique that personally fascinates me. I'm going to be practicing probably this weekend, as a matter of fact, in order to know that by Halloween I can execute this makeup fairly well.
Absolutely. And I will say this, the foundation of all effects makeup is beauty makeup. There are no professional effects makeup people that weren't first taught how to do beauty makeup. So women, out the gate, you already have the advantage over guys when it comes to doing this stuff, because the principles for laying down the base and doing those shading is stuff that you've been doing every day, oftentimes driving to work, apparently. So you have had the skills, the base skills that you've been working on your entire lives, just about, to do really, really cool makeup effects on your own and to step into a party. I mean, we spoke earlier about the 50 Shades of Grey costume with just some color palettes. I think a really interesting addition to that would be to do a white and gray facial makeup with shading to kind of complement that. You could make it part of your entire look is this. You are 50 Shades of Grey.
Excellent. All right. One last quick question, and we're going to wrap it up. I wanted to shoot for the moon and ask you if you had like a $75 to $100 budget. I mean, you're going crazy. I know that I've seen a lot of really, really great, and we're talking cosplay level. This is somebody that, you know, they love Comic-Con, or they do Ren fairs, that stuff that are into the lifestyle of cosplay. You can get some really great stuff on Etsy in that price range. Your thoughts?
Oh, no. In fact, I'm glad that you brought up Etsy. That's something that I wanted to speak about and completely forgot. And I'll use as a perfect example of that. That large dollar item that I was trying to buy from the one company, I ended up buying from another one, was a silicone mask. Silicone masks, for those who don't know, is much like a latex mask that you would think of, a Halloween mask that you pull over your head. The difference is, because it's silicone, it's very tight. It's a little claustrophobic the first time you do it, but it adheres kind of to your face, and it will translate your facial movements. So something that would normally take hours and hours of professional, getting a face cast done, and then having a sculpture done to your face, and then having professionals apply it, because a lot of times doing an appliance that went all around your head like that, you simply can't do it yourself. You need someone else to help you. A silicone mask, pulling that over your head, and doing a little makeup around your eyes and your mouth, that are the only parts that are really exposed, and you can have really, really expressive makeups from that. In fact, I know Michelle's going to put a link to my YouTube channel. The latest short that I have on there, Things That Go Bump. When you see, if anybody watches that and sees the creature in it, that is a silicone mask. I was able to pull that over someone's head, just do a little bit of makeup around their eyes and mouth, because we had a very tight shoot schedule. And I have people constantly contacting me, asking me who my makeup person was and who did that beautiful sculpture and that appliance, because this thing has large horns and it's this really elaborate piece. The problem with those is they are expensive. That particular one was about, I want to say, it was almost $600 for that one. So silicone masks, I would say, are not generally something that is available to the average person just doing a Halloween costume. However, just recently in the last few days, I found a ton of artists on Etsy who are doing silicone masks and are doing them. I don't want to call them dirt cheap because that's almost offensive. They're not necessarily full over the head with the chest piece and all that, but absolutely beautiful work. And I saw a couple that were running in like the $60, $70 range for at least a facial mask. And I know because I've worked with it enough, I did enough research on it. I kind of look, well, are they doing the process properly? Are they doing the protective webbing that keeps it from tearing? They were doing all that. They're just doing it kind of on a lower level. They're on their way up, trying to get, probably jobs in the industry. And this is a way that they can do, create a product that they can turn around and sell to an immediate, customer base. So Etsy is an absolutely fantastic resource to find, that extra little piece for a steampunk outfit. There's a ton of artists on there that are doing just really cool, like hair bows with gears mixed in and LED lights. And I mean, some of those people want like $10 for those things that are just completely original and creative. You're not going to show up at a party and have other people with those items. They can't buy them in a Halloween store. They can't find them at their Walmart. These are things that are artists. A lot of times the masks that I saw were, they were doing limited runs or they were doing one-offs. I saw a guy that does these individual really cool painted masks. Some of them super, super creepy. Others just like beautifully ornate masquerade masks. And he wanted anywhere from $30 to maybe $80 each. Each one is one of a kind. He doesn't mass produce them. So everyone, if you buy that mask, and you're the only person who has that. So Etsy is an absolutely great resource for finding really inexpensive things. But if you're talking of a budget of about $100, I mean, you could go on Etsy and buy, potentially 4, 5, 6 accessories that are completely original, one of a kind, and really, really high quality stuff. The artists that are using that format right now are just incredible. So I would definitely recommend Etsy to people trying to do something sort of outside the box, especially.
Right. All right, we are just about ready to wrap it up. I want to give you one last opportunity. Is there kind of a parting hack or tip or trick that maybe we didn't get to that you wanted to mention before we wrap this up?
No, I mean, I think I'll just reiterate, just because it really is the best tip. The more and more I went through this, the more and more I talked to people, being original and creative, being something that's going to kind of translate to a larger mass tends to be the most effective. I'll use as an example, if you're going to a costume contest. I have a friend who hosted, or I should say was a judge for several years at a huge costume contest that happens in Orlando, Florida. And the grand prize, I believe, is $6,000. It happens downtown. I mean, thousands of people pour into the street for this thing. And there's people who literally work year-round building the craziest, most elaborate costumes. He saw fully functioning Iron Man costumes that lit up and glowed and looked completely metal. An 8-foot demon that this guy on stilts built this whole elaborate piece. And oftentimes, what he told me was the stuff that would win was just the stuff that seemed to tap into either pop culture or into references that the audience as a whole seem to gravitate towards, because that contest, and a lot of those contests, is done by audience reaction. So one year, he had a guy who literally had a King Kong costume that was a giant King Kong hanging on a building, and he had planes flying around his head. This thing cost thousands and thousands of dollars to make. He was on stage, obviously, as a finalist. Another guy got on stage, and he had bought a latex chunk mask from Goonies, and then was wearing a Superman t-shirt and ran out and grabbed the mic and yelled, "Hey, you guys," and everybody went nuts and voted for that guy. Now, I'm not saying you should necessarily go buy a cheap costume mask and then jump on stage and yell, "Hey, you guys." What I'm saying is something very, very creative that's part of kind of the pop culture that is right now, like a 50 Shades of Grey outfit, like the Taco Bell sauce girls. I could easily see 5 girls dressed as Taco Bell sauce packets or dressed as different flavors of Skittles stepping up on a stage for a contest like that. and winning, and that costume did not take a ton of money. So if you have the money to spend, great, but think about what you're purchasing. Think about, come up with a very clear and concise idea for the concept that you want to do, and think of creative ways to fix that. A lot of times, in my industry is a perfect example. When you have people who are, the super big budget movies that you hear about failing and spending all this money and then floundering and then they're no good, a lot of times that extra money is what hurt it, because people ran into problems, and instead of fixing them creatively, they just tried to throw money at it. Waterworld is a movie a lot of people talk about, the colossal mess that was Waterworld, because their set sank and they spent all this money. Whereas time and time again, the movies that did not have a big budget, and as a result, when they ran into problems, they did not have the luxury of, we will simply go buy this. You're stuck there and you're trying to make it happen, and you're like, okay, what can we do? And those solutions that you come up with, 9 times out of 10 will be better than anything you could have spent money on. So take the time to really think out, what is the costume I want to do? What is the character I want to do? American Horror Story just started up again. Right now, you put on a scary clown costume, which is pretty much any clown costume, because clowns are terrifying. And you can do a few things to look like that clown on American Horror Story, and you walk into a party like that, people would freak out. Any kind of thing that you can do a reference to a television show, or a movie, or a character in literature that people love, those kind of things, 9 times out of 10 will do much, much better than you simply going and buying a Captain America costume just because it's a Captain America costume. People aren't going to be impressed by that. You walk in and they go, okay, it's Captain America, and you're pretty much done. You'll find it much more rewarding for yourself and for the reaction you get from people if you come up with something creative that you kind of made yourself.
Excellent. Michael McWhorter, thank you so much for joining us today.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Have a great weekend, and join us again next time for Save Time, Save Money Chat.
Thanks.